Hi, everybody. It's so great to have you all here. This is absolutely my favorite time of the year. Not only, do we put on a big party and have all of you here, but I get to talk to other people who are doing this work. We're a different kind of a community. We're a community of doers. We're not just here to learn about what's not working in government and complain about our policymakers or our governments. We're here to actually do something about it. And that takes implementers. It takes people actually doing this work every day. So I'm really excited to introduce this next panel of people who are actually materializing some of what you've heard from the last few speakers in their local communities. These are people who are building digital services teams and transforming the way that government works for the people in their cities. I'd love to bring to the stage Holly St. Clair from the state of Massachusetts, Rebecca Reinhart, Chief Administrative Officer for the City of Philadelphia, and Eric Schwartz, Digital Services Architect for Lexington, Kentucky. Thank you all for joining me today.
Thank you. Great to be here.
So as I said, each of you are sort of building digital services teams within your local communities. We have 3 different sized communities here. We have a state government, a larger city, and a mid-sized city. And the thing to note is that no government is doing this the same way. So I'm hoping that each of you can talk a little bit about how your digital services unit came to be and sort of the differences between each of the models. So Holly, I know you just recently inherited sort of a 60-person team within the state of Massachusetts that is focused on digital services, and it's combined both data and the digital services teams. Can you talk a little bit about how that was formed?
Sure. Governor Baker and Executive Director Mark Nunley set out to centralize Massachusetts IT and modernize it. And the top priority of the modernization was digital services, or is digital services. And we created our team in May, and we combined 6 different groups, everybody from GIS analysts, data scientists, video folks, programmers, and so on, to a 60-person team, which is pretty interesting. Our mission is to ensure that, our mission is to use the best information technology to ensure that every constituent's interaction with our state government is easy, fast, meaningful, and just wicked awesome. And our first project that we're really focused on is our website, mass.gov, and we're in the process of redesigning it and replatforming it. We're creating a modern Drupal-based CMS, and Brian Hirsch, raise your hand, Brian, is leading that work. And he and I would invite you to use our code as you look to develop your own websites. Also, we have a sneak peek of our website to give folks here at Code for America, our friends here. Harlan Weber. Harlan, raise your hand. He's heading up the, I can't even see him back there. He's heading up the design for the project, and he will be presenting at tomorrow's tomorrow's event. So the thing that I think is really different about our team is that I have a history in using data to inform digital and government decisions. And so we kept our data team, and they're at the center and the heart of our digital strategy. For example, we're using data scientists to look at Google Analytics data with R to really better understand what our constituents are doing on our website, as well as understanding what those high-value targets are for our first few sprints to really show value.
Great. Rebecca, so we've been following along the work of Philadelphia for quite a while. We have a couple of former fellows that have worked there, and we've been really fascinated by the work that's been done with the beta website and others. And I know Philadelphia went through a transition this year and sort of reemerged with a new organizational structure that I've been really noticing and admiring as it really reflects a lot of what we've been talking about in terms of reorganizing so that we're putting digital services front and center and meeting people's needs. Can you talk a little bit about your organizational structure?
Sure. When the new administration came in January, so Mayor Kenny took office, we started to think about how best to organize the city, both in terms of focusing on the mission-critical IT. We have a lot of legacy systems that the city is running on, systems that are 20 or 30 years old, our payroll system, The police, a lot of the police systems are running on a 30-year-old mainframe. So I'm admitting this to everyone here to just say that a lot of cities and counties are in the same, and maybe even states are in the same situation. So there was a need to focus on that type of mission-critical IT, while at the same time elevating the digital transformation work. And we've had a great team of open data and digital transformation. They were formerly the Alpha team, and we have a few of them over there. So wave, everybody. They're not waving, but they're over there. And they had formerly been housed in IT. And we decided to move them to report directly to me, the Chief Administrative Officer. And I have a new position focusing on modernizing government, reporting directly to the mayor. So IT also reports to me, but the new structure allows for IT to focus on business applications, phone, voicemail, telecommunication, while digital transformation is front and center, elevated, and also closer in proximity to the operating departments. So I think that's important just to make digital transformation more embedded within the departments.
Mm-hmm. That's great. So Eric comes to us. He was a former fellow, you might recognize him, from the city of Lexington, and then went to actually join the city of Lexington as a digital services architect. I wanted to make sure that we had a smaller, medium-sized city represented here, because I think I hear a lot that it's great to see what Philadelphia or San Francisco and others are doing in this space, but how can we get started with this as a small or mid-sized city? So Eric, can you share a little bit about how you've gotten started and what you've seen sort of transformed as a result of just having technologists within government?
Definitely. So a moment of realness among my 1,003 best friends is that it's a very scrappy version of what's going on in bigger places, and we learn a ton from what's happening in bigger places. But maybe I can talk about just how I'm situated. I live in IT as a consultant, where I joined up after the fellowship in 2014. And so I was handed the website redesign project, which was kind of perfect. It gave me the ability to take this sort of worldview and bring it into the city and really run with it. And they gave me space to do that and support, which I tremendously appreciate. But that said, it was really within the scope of this one project. It was I partnered really tightly with the communications team, and so I think that working in a more human-centered way made a ton of sense to them. They do so much work with residents every day. So we partnered, and that was the bridge that we built, and then we sort of fanned out and tried to build bridges to departments as much as we could also, and then of course always working toward the need of the user as the most paramount thing. But at the end of the day, it's interesting, and I think this is maybe happens more in smaller cities, but it's not necessarily the dominant worldview to work in this way. But within the scope of this one project, I think we've made a lot of progress, and we're really happy with some of the outcomes that we're starting to see now.
Yeah. Holly, you've done a lot of work in engaging your local community and working with your local brigade. Can you talk a little bit about that and what the value has been in having that partnership and how you've brought on talent?
Sure. I mean, I think first I would start by saying the civic tech environment in Boston is super hot right now. We have really great representation from the city of Boston, the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, and state. Everybody come on, folks, move it up. Oh, they're shy. They haven't had their coffee. And really, we're all hiring. But I do want to just really highlight.
Just plug that. Go ahead.
Where was I? Oh, yes. So really, we have our local brigade to thank, and really they are the gravity of our civic tech ecosystem in Boston. They're a pipeline for talent, but really they're the gathering place where government, nonprofit, and community organizations and technology can come together to really learn from each other and exchange ideas for change. And we are lucky enough to have two of the brigade leaders on our digital team staff. Again, it's Harlan Weber and Isaac Chansky. Are you back there? Yeah, somewhere. And so we look to strengthen that connection.
Great. Eric, tell me a little bit about what it takes to get a technologist like you into government. What attracted you to the role, and what can others learn here about sort of attracting technologists into their?
Well, sort of like I alluded to earlier, it was great that they gave me this project to run with, and space and support. That was huge. And I'll also share something that's sort of very nuts and bolts, but coming in as a contractor, you have to typically go through a staffing agency to work with the city. And so one of the things that people, if they're at a higher level, may not see is that those staffing agencies, their mission is really to find technology people and bring them into the city, and forge that relationship, whereas I already had the relationship. And so as a result, those staffing agencies will usually take a 35% cut of what you pay the contractors, which felt very high to me, so for my personal well-being. So I basically went through the list of those approved vendors and actually was able to get that down to 10%, which I know this is very nitty-gritty, but that was the difference probably between me coming and not coming to the city. So that's something that may resonate with people.
Yeah. And last question is for Rebecca. So there's been a lot of change within the city of Philadelphia. You've done a lot of work on sort of starting with the website and starting small. What are some of the things that you've learned through this process?
Sure. Well, before I get to that, I don't want to be outdone by Holly's call out for civic tech in Boston. So Philly has a great civic tech scene, and Code for Philly, as well as Chris Alfano's here. He's been a great help to me, and just in general, the scene in Philly is awesome. So I had to say that. In terms of what the question was, what have I learned? I mean, the website redesign, I wouldn't even say redesign, re-engineering of the website, because it's so transformative to be based on the user experience. We went through a process where over the last few months, the team we had to figure out how to scale it, how to address the whole government. And we have over 10,000 web pages. The city of Philadelphia is also a county. So I think from that perspective, I've learned just that process of how to scale, which we did come up with. But we have the balance between sort of the innovation work or the digital transformation work that can occur at sort of the tail of the bell curve, and making that innovation or digital transformation applicable to operations of government is really important. So I think one of the things we've been focusing on, and what I've learned, is that how important it is to get the operations people on board and into the digital transformation, as it could make their lives better, as well as the citizens and the residents.
Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing your experiences. And we have a couple of breakout sessions over the next few days that are going to dive into greater detail about some of the tactics and strategies that you can take in order to build your digital services teams and strategies. Thanks so much.
Thanks.